There we go. Boom.
Hello, Travis. I'm so glad you could join me today. I'm excited about having a conversation with you.
I appreciate it, Caroline. Good to be here.
Yeah, 100%. And so, Travis, we actually met at this coffee house a couple weeks ago. And, I was selling my house, and, you had a great way of introducing yourself, and you sent me a great video on the phone, and you had an opportunity to talk a little bit. So I love your unique approach to meeting me. And so tell me a little bit about your background and how did you actually even get into real estate?
Well, initially I'd always wanted to get into real estate, and I suppose long story short, 2020 was an opportunity to get into real estate. Always had an interest in it, making sure that it was something in the background that if I could jump into, I would. And here I am talking to you, of course.
Yeah.
Met you through one of my video messages that I send to everybody as I'm prospecting. Try to be as helpful as possible, and maybe create a unique and memorable way of reaching out to somebody. So
I really appreciated that because, you really set yourself apart from the 147,000 phone calls you get, and so I love that about you. And so when it comes to being a real estate agent, and, obviously it's a terrific profession, you're helping people find their dream homes. What do you like most about what you're doing?
Well, you got to remember that when you're picking up the phone call or messaging somebody, maybe writing a letter, at the end of the day, your goal is to help somebody. That's what you're aiming for. And there's people out there, as many of those that may shut you down or say no or not yet. There are those that are looking for the help to be guided down a path on that transaction of putting their home on the market, getting the correct guidance from a professional such as myself, and then helping them through the entire process, keeping them updated. So I thrive on that.
Yeah.
I actually am involved with a great team that we take a lot of pride in our customer service and making sure that our communication is effective, and making sure that we don't just have clients for the current transaction, but for a transaction and a lifetime as well. So we always want that relationship.
Absolutely. I think teamwork is super important. And so you talked about, people that you work with and how successful you've been together. What do you, when you think about people that have really helped shape who you are and what you do, what do you think is the importance of mentorship when it comes to any career that you have?
I think any type of mentorship or coaching is a great idea. You're already, instead of taking, I suppose, not necessarily taking all the risk, but going at it yourself with all the unknowns, you're already maybe addressing and shortening that learning curve with others.
Absolutely.
That have already walked the path before you. So that's my aim, and that's what I like to learn from, if I can add value to them as well.
Yeah.
But a coach or a mentor is something I do believe in, especially in the recent years.
And I think that's so true, is that in your business and my business too, where we're definitely in the helping profession, and then mentorship is very, very important. Having another leader that can, like you said, really shorten that learning curve. Because a lot of times in corporate America, you'll start a new job, and what will end up happening is they just kind of throw you to the wolves and figure it out yourself. And so how has that affected your ability to be a successful real estate agent, having that team and that mentorship for you? How has that worked for you?
I think it's created a lot more structure in my life. It's created consistency as well. At the end of the day, I may be with a team, but I still are working for myself and my own employer. So I go into work on an everyday basis, making sure that I've got the mentality that I've got to do something productive today, or try to find somebody that needs my help. And having that mentality is just being consistent, going in, making the phone calls, speaking to the right people, having a conversation on a daily basis, or maybe even meeting with somebody. But it's just about structure and keeping to that strict schedule yourself.
Yes, structure. So what are some of the daily habits that you have incorporated into your life in order to be able to be successful, right? Because we take everything day at a time.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've done to be able to really achieve a higher level of success than maybe other people, because of the structure that you've been able to develop and incorporate into your everyday lifestyle?
Well, definitely a schedule starting for one, and time management. All about that time and what is going to be productive. When I first got into it, I would do a lot less than what I'm doing at the moment, and making sure that between a certain hour or period in the morning from 8 to 12, I'm making phone calls, I'm making connections or networking, maybe even reaching out to somebody such as yourself who's now part of my sphere of influence
Yeah.
that may be able to help refer me any business, but also making sure that once I'm done with that, maybe I'm meeting other people that I couldn't call over the phone, and maybe even meeting expired listings that I can just go and drop off a resume. So just making sure that
Yeah.
that time management is really key to being productive.
And I have to say that I remember one day I called you, I think around 11 o'clock in the morning, and I had some great news for you. And you'd said, hey, can it wait? And so I like that's something this is really important to you and you stuck with it. I think it's, keeping your word, especially to yourself. It's the promises you make to yourself,
Yeah.
that I feel like that is why you've been able to achieve the level of success that you have, because you do have that structure, you do have that discipline. If you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, obviously you've taken some really great steps to being successful. What are some challenges that you've had to deal with, as in your career as in real estate?
I think overall, creating that structure for yourself and having a good game plan every day, not just what your goal is for the year, but some of the challenges could potentially be just picking up the phone yourself,
Yeah.
just making sure that you're around the right people and everybody else that is motivated at the same time to motivate you. At the end of the day, it's all the effort that you put into it. It may not necessarily happen overnight. It's more than likely not going to happen overnight. So you got to realize that the work that you're putting in now may help, and you're basically going off a blind faith, which is what we like to call it.
Yes, that's
So,
very true. Because
yeah.
again, you never know who you're going to be reaching out to, and someone that's picking up that phone is very heavy, right? We're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't pick up this phone, but there are people out there that genuinely need what you do.
Yeah.
And you don't make a phone call, you're not going to be able to reach that contact and be able to meet those people that really genuinely need the help that you are able to provide.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, with regards to real estate and with regards to, we've had some really great conversations, and I love the fact that you're very open to learning new things, the mentorship you've had, the leaders that you've had. And so with you and I discussing, a little bit about finances, right? Because it's so important, real estate and figuring out how money works, those two things are of paramount importance.
Yep.
Because you're dealing with people that are making the biggest purchase of their lives. They're either having to get a bunch of money together, or they just received a whole lot of money, right? And so obviously you've been educating yourself a lot more about money. How has that helped you basically strengthen your position as in real estate, with the fact that you know a little bit more now about how money works, since you and I have had some great conversations about that?
Yeah, well, that's definitely a good question, first of all. It's a tremendous amount of value that I can add to any one of my clients, knowing that I've got you now as a financial coach, mentor, and now I can have a much better understanding of not just how it can add value to my clients, but also how it will impact me, for myself, for my wife, and what are the next steps that we need to take to either make sure financially we're okay, maybe even starting a family down the line, is having that peace of mind now, and even for a client getting into a transaction about maybe something else, or the financial impact it may have them, whether it's before buying a house and making sure not to spend in certain areas so that they can get the loan, or even afterwards, now what are they going to do with that lump sum and getting into a new year where they may be able to take advantage of taxes or deferred taxes at the same time. So that's a great question.
You see, I hear your taxes, deferred taxes.
Yeah, I read the book.
You're getting the lingo, man. I'm very impressed by that. And so, with that in mind, obviously I had a chance to speak to you and your beautiful wife, Kendra. So I love the fact that you are really rounding yourself out so beautifully, because the fact that you are in real estate where people are making the biggest purchase of their lives, and yet you're sending emails, you're always educating people about when is the right time to buy, teaching them about how to prepare your home.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you're able to, when you're communicating with people, how you are able to stay in touch with them. What are some of the strategies that you utilize in order to show them that you really care and that you're also educating them at the same time.
Yeah, well, one of them is making sure that we're sending useful information. There's no point in
Adding value.
of course,
Super
which
important.
is what I've got you in one of my email campaigns, and I sent to everybody else to make sure that you are up to date with what is happening in the market. Whether I can call you or just make the call and speak to you over a phone, or an email that you may not necessarily reply to, but you
It's
have
there.
seen it,
Yes.
it's there, and hopefully I've kept you top of mind, or at least you have kept me top of mind, and that's
Yeah.
going back to the challenges question, is making sure you have everybody keeping you top of mind, staying relevant with useful information, and just making sure that you're always there for any type of help. So whether it's emails, whether it's phone calls, whether it's my previous sphere of influence, any other friends, maybe in a business network as well, like LinkedIn. But there's
yes.
several sources that we make sure that we can touch base with a client or a potential client so that they know we're here to help.
And you just made me think of something. I had a friend of mine that had bought a house, really nice woman, had helped him buy the house. And then 9 years later, he decides to sell the house. And this real estate agent had never gotten back in touch with him, not even a Christmas card. And he's selling the house, and she happens to drive by and sees the sign in the front and goes, "Andy, how come you didn't call me?" And he's like, "Betty, I haven't seen you in 9 years." So to your point, keeping top of mind, it's those touches, all the time, and reaching out to people so that if something does happen, oh gosh, I remember that email from Travis, or I remember that phone call from him, that even maybe after you've even helped them sell the house or buy a house, that you're always staying in touch so that when they have a friend that wants to sell their house or buy their house, they go, "Oh my gosh, you should speak to Travis."
Yeah.
Because even now that my house is sold, and thank you for all your help, but guess what? You're still reaching out and you're still sharing very valuable information to me, because now I'm going to be in the market to buy a house. And so who am I going to be thinking about? Whose emails am I going to read? Because, it's going to be you. Because once again, even though the job is done, for you the job is never done, because you're continuing to add value.
Exactly.
And that is why I was so happy that when we had that conversation, when you read the book, How Money Works, that's adding value to your life. Because financial education is paramount.
Yeah.
If you don't know how money works, you get taken advantage of, you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you ask anyone the question, what's the costliest money mistake you've made? We've all had those big mistakes. Some people have made the mistake of buying a house that's way out of their league and then losing it because they couldn't keep up with the payments.
Yeah, and going back to your question about the book, which you had originally given me and fascinated with, there's always something new to learn, like in real estate, where you can always make yourself a little bit better at every day, financially as well, which is a very, I would maybe put in the category as very easily understood, but then how much do you actually know of trying to get into taking advantage of making sure your money works for you at the same time, because money never sleeps, we know that.
No, exactly.
And I really appreciated once we had met over the phone, and the connection that we already had, and making sure that this is a good relationship, and the value that you would be able to even add to some of my clients potentially.
100%, and I think that's where what we both do is such a helping profession, right? Because you help people find their dream homes. I'm helping them find their dream future. Because, there's three things that are going to happen, right, in your life, is that more people are afraid of, running out of money.
Yep.
And you can keep your physical fitness, like I'm a fitness instructor, but guess what? I mean, all the health in the world's not going to help me if I don't have any money to live my life when I'm 60, 70, 80 years old.
Exactly.
And people, they don't know.
Yeah, and you're definitely a great resource for that as well. I'm trying to make sure that I am, from my side and what I know and understand, and from your side, what is the best way that you normally go to or reach out to a client and are able to connect with the client?
Well, you know what? You made a really good point. You make a lot of phone calls every day. I just go out and meet people. Whether I'm at a coffee shop, whether I am at the gym. So I'm a fitness instructor, and a lot of times people that are physically fit, or at least trying to have a healthier lifestyle, are more open to learning a little bit more about how they can improve their lifestyle. Because let's face it, people don't want to talk about money. It's a taboo subject in so many ways, because when they don't know how it works, people don't want to feel dumb. And so, even the book, the How Money Works, it said stop being a sucker and start being a student. Because when you have that knowledge, you are now in power. You can make those decisions for yourself, and you can make better decisions. So for me, it's been amazing when I'm able to help someone, sit down with them, and then they look and go, oh my gosh, I know what it takes to retire one day. I can see that what I'm doing today and tomorrow and the next day is going to benefit my future. Where a lot of people, Travis, people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. And you're in your 20s and you have all the time in the world. I'm going to save later. And then in your 30s, where Kendra are, and you're newly married, and you purchase a home, and you're thinking about maybe having children in the future, and you need a new car. And now you're in your 40s, and now your kids are, at school age, and they need hockey sticks, and they need ballet lessons, and then you're in your 50s, and now your kids are grown, and now they're sending to college, and all of a sudden you're 60, and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Because we didn't plan.
Exactly.
And
so you brought up a really good point, is making sure that it's vital for anybody to start as early as possible for themselves as well as their family. Is that correct?
100%. And the book that we teach from, Tom Matthews, he's been in business for 40 years. He's a brilliant, and he's really our fearless leader, and he wants to eradicate financial illiteracy. 100 years ago, a lot of people couldn't read. And now financial literacy is the new, basically, epidemic, because people don't know. And think about it. I mean, Travis, we both have a little bit of a history. We're both originally from South Africa. And I went to school in South Africa, you in Mauritius, and then even in the United States. And did you ever learn anything in any classes, even in college, about how money works?
No, not at all. And that's what I was going to ask, is that why do you think that this is not taught in schools and the college system or the entire education system? Because this is a very important topic when it comes to your overall life and what you're setting yourself up for, or your goals in life. Financially and money-wise could either put you where you want to be, or it could put you behind where you want to be.
You made a great point. Less than 17% of the states actually even require some kind of financial education class. And that's not saying much, because they're teaching you how to, balance a checkbook. I don't know about you, but I haven't balanced a checkbook in years. And so, that's a really good question. And I feel like, it's almost like in a lot of ways, they want you to be in debt. Because then you can be controlled.
True.
And that's why the two of us and a lot of other brave souls are out there being business for yourself. Because as long as you're working for someone else is going to determine what your value is, what your worth is. You're worth $16 an hour? They talk about the biggest scam is the 40-40-40, right? You work 40 hours a week for 40 years, and then they give you 40% of the pay. And you're supposed to make it. Do you by any chance know right now the number one job for people over the age of 65?
No, I do not.
It's Uber.
Wow.
So what happens is, back in the day, you would work until 65, and then you die at 67. And now look at how lifespan, people are living to be 100 years old. And then they are retiring, and then realizing very quickly that Social Security is not going to help them out. They're 401ks, but no one ever taught them.
And they run out of money.
They run out of money. And now, think about, for example, my mother's 79 years old. My father was a wonderful planner. I would not want my mother driving Uber at age of 79, driving intoxicated people from bar to bar at 2 o'clock in the morning. But that's the state of affairs. Go to McDonald's, go to Walmart. Who do you see working there? This is really an epidemic, and that is why I am so passionate. My background, I was a school teacher. I taught 7th grade. Travis, if you can teach 7th grade, you can do anything. Mount Everest is nothing. But this is finally, and I worked at Caesars, I worked at Target, but I had a wonderful friend who introduced me to this business 4 years now, and I've never been more passionate about righting the wrongs that this country is inflicting on everybody. 99% of people, they don't know. They just don't know. We've got that 1% that do understand how money works.
Yeah.
But what about the rest of us? Who's going to teach them?
Yeah. So it's not just about educating. I would say everybody else is going through the school systems as well as the college systems, but also a passion for helping people, reach their goals and get to a position in life that they had dreamed of potentially.
Yes, I love the way you talk about dreams. I have a great colleague of mine, Mckensy. He's just brilliant, and he talks to us the other day about in a training that talks about how, for a lot of people, their dreams have shrunk down to the size of their paycheck, and that's just so sad.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people and we go through their financial needs analysis, and I ask them about their FIN number, right, their financial independence number. If you had to retire today, how much money would you like to be able to live comfortably? And what they tell me? I don't know, maybe $3,000, maybe $4,000.
They just guess.
But again, they're not even thinking about having a wonderful retirement.
Yeah.
$3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's not a dream retirement. You can't even go on a vacation. Well, maybe to Laughlin for a day. But that's what's happening. People they don't know how to dream anymore because they've gotten themselves in such a tough spot because no one's ever educated them. No one's ever taught them that there are things that you can do. There are lots of ways that you can get yourself into a better place, but it starts with a financial education. Because without that education, someone who knows more about money than you do, Travis, they are going to be able to control you.
Yeah, true. So what's the process for somebody getting started and they meet you and now they are interested? What's the guideline or what's the path like in real estate, kind of walking somebody down from the front end of the transaction to selling or purchasing a home? What's your guided and very briefly, I suppose, because I know there's a lot of in between.
Yes, absolutely.
But what's your path look like?
Absolutely. When I think about what a great realtor you are, I remember our conversation, you just listened to me and you asked me, well, what are your goals? Tell me about what you want to do. It's the same way with me. The first step, of course, is getting that education and reading the book, which is super important, right? And I will show you the book. But the second part is looking at, where they say, start with the end in mind.
Okay.
What is your ultimate goal? And we're able to help people with everything. So whether it's increasing their cash flow or getting out of debt, being able to protect their families, asset accumulation, wills and trusts. When Chadwick Boseman, a famous actor, Aretha Franklin, Prince, when they passed away, they had no will and no trust. And you speak about your future children. Did you know, Travis, heaven forbid something happened to you and Kendra and you had children and you didn't have a will or trust? Do you know that your children would basically be put into the welfare system?
Oh, wow.
If you didn't have it, I want my father to take care of my children. People just don't know. And so that is why when we sit down with people, we ask them, what are your goals? What's most important to you? And then just like when you're helping somebody find their dream home or their dream condo or their dream castle, whatever it happens to be, it's so important to talk to that person, educate them, and then find out what it is that they need.
Yeah.
When I think about fitness, for example, if you came to me with fitness goals and Kendra came to me with fitness goals, guess what? I would put you in a different program.
Yeah.
Same with your clients. Different people are looking for different homes.
Of course.
And so that's where I love, our team. You mentioned your team. Our team is really in this to make sure no family gets left behind. That even though we haven't had the opportunity to be educated in school, now here's your chance. We are educating all of America and sitting down with people, and for the first time in their lives, they're actually thinking, I need to think about my future.
Yeah.
People just live moment to moment. They live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's the state of affairs for most of America. And people don't even know how much they spend on going out to eat or going to the movies or their 147 different subscriptions or Amazon.
Yeah.
And so when you sit down with a person and we actually take a hard look at where they are now and where they want to be, and everyone's going to have a different path. But my goal, our team's goal, is to light the way to show them that financial freedom is possible.
Yeah.
And is there going to be some sacrifices? Yes, there is. But you know, when you save your money is going to save you.
Yeah.
Because there's really three ways, Travis. Three ways that you're going to get to retire. Number one, you win the lottery. Good luck with that.
That would be one.
Okay. Number two, some rich uncle leaves you a whole bunch of money, or you save and you invest. And by doing that, that's where the education comes in. And that's why, you know, I just recently helped a family, and they got approved for their savings plan. And I was so excited to call them. I was like, that's why I love what I do. I changed that family's future forever. When I sit down with the family and I put a college plan together for their 3-year-old son, that kid doesn't know my name, but in 15 years, when he doesn't have to take out a college loan,
Yeah.
I impacted that person.
Yeah, of course.
And that's where my passion is.
Absolutely. Well, I can see that. That's for sure. It's just making sure that you have influenced somebody's life and made sure that you've helped not just that generation, but their future generations, and passing that knowledge on from the mother or the father, the parents, to the child as well. And I can see that that's a big passion of yours. And I mean, it's amazing. Obviously, personalizing each one of those dealings or transactions between each client
Yes.
is a big thing as well. It's just making sure that you find out their needs and what's important to them, which is exactly what I do, and just making sure that
Yes.
that you personalize that.
You know, I shared kind of my little success story because I was so happy. And can you tell me, you know, obviously you have a big passion for this as well. You love what you do. You're great at it. You lead with your heart, which is super important. Can you share with me maybe a story, a success story that you had that, you know, keeps you going even on those challenging days when maybe you make a call and someone hangs up on you,
Yeah.
right? Can you share a story with me perhaps that basically just solidifies the fact that you're doing what really makes you happy?
Yeah, so probably one of them would be my first listing that I got. It was a father and a son. Unfortunately, the wife and the mother had passed away
Oh my
a couple
gosh.
months back. So this was already been put into a difficult situation for them, and me having to sympathize and
That
making
must have
sure
been so
that
hard.
it was quite difficult at the time, and you know, I had to work at a certain pace, making sure that I had catered to their needs and how quickly they need to or wanted to move forward. You also got to make sure that when it's their emotional attachment to everything, the home as well that they had been in for.
So you had to sell the home because of the passing of the family
That's what
members.
they want to do. They want to downsize, which I was able to, of course, help them both with the new home at the same time and making sure
Wow.
and getting what they wanted to.
So you're able to actually do both.
I
You're
was,
actually
yeah.
able to help have another family move into their
Exactly.
home and then actually help. That's amazing that you're
Yeah.
able to do both of those things.
Yeah, and it was quite in a way, it was very rewarding because you kind of see from the buyer's side that's moving into his house as a young family coming in. He spent his time, or at least my seller that I was working for at the time, him, his son, and his wife, of course, had spent 20 plus years in
Yeah.
that home, and now it's come to the time where they need to move along and
Yeah.
find something
New
different.
beginnings.
New beginnings, and you started that new chapter, but seeing that excitement as well, knowing that the transaction has gone as smoothly, that they were happy with the service that I'd given them,
Yeah.
and making sure that, you know, anything else that they want right now, it doesn't have to be buying or selling a home,
Yeah.
that they can reach out to me for,
Yeah.
and I'm more than happy to help. It's a phone call or a text away.
Yes.
That's it. So that would have been one of my most rewarding, and the work that was put into it to prep the home, to make sure that they, of course, got the most for it at the end of the day.
Yes, I remember that email. It says, what are
Yeah.
the steps you need to do to make sure your house is is sell ready, and all the great little advice you gave,
Yeah.
like making sure that the grounds look great and the paint, and it's the little things like that that are huge.
Yeah.
And we talked about it's the small things. It's that phone call, it's that text, and it's the same way with me. I'm always reaching out, and when it's someone's birthday, or their 1 year policy, and I'm like, let's sit down and talk about what your extra plans you are. And I think the reason that we are passionate about the things we do is because we are really here for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And people can talk about that. It's that mission before commission, right? It's character before cash, because
Yeah.
people are going to do business with you when they know you, they like you, and they trust you, and they know that everything you're doing is for that higher purpose.
Yeah, and you're coming from a place of value as well. You're making sure that if they have a question, you can answer it. Any need at all, being reliable, which is a big part of it. I'm making sure that, picking up the phone or answering a text when we need to, because we both come from a customer service-based background.
Absolutely.
And it may require a response within, at the second or within 5 minutes. You better be on it. So,
Right.
especially when you have a client that needs your immediate attention. Drop the
Yes.
ball and kind
Yes.
of all the attention needs to be focused on them. So,
Well, especially for you, I mean, when someone's trying to sell a house or buy a house and they have a question and you don't respond to them for a day, they'd be like,
Yeah.
well, this guy, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And so it's a big thing is showing people that you care.
Exactly.
And that's why I love the emails and the messages that you send, because you genuinely are there for the long haul,
Yeah.
for whatever it is that they need.
yeah, and I think that the connection between the financial side and whether you're buying a house, of course, again, or selling a house, how it may impact them later on down the road. There's a big connection between the two. It involves a large transaction. It involves a lot of money at the end of the day.
Yes.
And it's just making sure that we are the ones to guide them down that path, because they don't know what that next step is.
Yes.
And there's some people that choose to go down it by themselves, and maybe they do know, maybe they know a little, maybe they don't know anything. But we are the professionals that will help them get to that next step. And that's all it takes,
Yeah.
is just that next step. You don't have to see all the way down there. As long as you can see your next step, that's what it takes.
100%. I always think about it's like you wouldn't do surgery on yourself,
Yeah.
right? And so why would you try to go and navigate buying or selling a house by yourself? Why would you go into court and try to defend yourself? If you want to know how money works, why not go to a professional, a financial coach? I like to call myself a financial coach.
Okay.
Because that's what I'm doing. I'm coaching them along. I'm teaching them, I'm guiding them, because, my goal is that, even the small things, when you learn about how money works, you make different decisions.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not going to go out to dinner 6 times in a week. Might you go, oh gosh, if I cut down just a little bit over here, or maybe I don't need 37 magazines.
Yeah.
And when you just are able to look at your life for a moment and analyze it a bit, and then think about the long haul, right?
Yeah.
Begin with the end in mind. What do I want to have? What about 50-year-old Travis? What about 7-year-old Travis and Kendra? And I think a lot of people just live in the now so much, and that's what they want us to do.
Yeah.
They want us to be in debt. I've got to get that new car, and people have no problem $600 a month for a car,
Yeah.
but not one moment think about $300 for my future.
Yeah.
People insure their houses, Travis, which may or may not burn down or have a flood. People insure their cars. You may or may not have an accident, but they don't insure their futures. They don't insure their families. And if we don't tell them how important it is, how are they going to know? Because to your point, we don't learn about it in schools.
Do you find a lot of people are taken back by their current expenses or what they are spending? They don't actually realize
Oh my gosh.
all the subscriptions and what's automatically being taken out of the bank account.
The couple that I met with, my
Yeah.
success story that I just had, they both do very well, and we went through their expenses, we went through, the money coming in, and they had about $4,000 in discretionary.
Wow.
And the young lady goes, I said, according to this, you've got $4,000 extra a month. And she goes, no, I don't. And then she says, oh my gosh, where is this money going? Because people completely underestimate how much money they spend on eating out,
Yeah.
on subscriptions, on vacations, on everything. And now with the inflation the way it is, people are spending more and more money just to live. And they are completely taken aback. And the other interesting thing too is, a lot of times we make assumptions, it makes an ass out of you and me, that someone will come up in a really nice car, they'll drive up in a BMW, and you go, oh, they don't need a lot of times we think they're fine, they're okay. And this couple was making about $140,000 collectively a year, and they had no clue. And that's why when you say you're going to make those phone calls, no matter what, you just don't know who's on the other end.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, the shock that they experience. And I think the most challenging thing for me is when people see it, they have a decision to make. Either they're going to take it one way or they're not. And unfortunately, the biggest challenge for me is people who put their head in the sand and they say, well, I'm just not going to deal with this right now. It's kind of like, I know that I'm sick. I should go to the doctor. But maybe if I don't go to the doctor, I'm going to magically get better. And people see the finance they're in.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a little bit painful. It's going to be a bit of a sacrifice to get to the good.
Do you think it's also based on maybe laziness of knowing what the potential outcome can be, but they just don't want to do anything about it right now because that's it? Is it laziness as well?
You know, it can be laziness, it can be fear. It really varies. But again, a lot of people, I think what it is, Travis, it's all about now, instant gratification. So when we talked a little bit about with you, right? Every morning you get up, 8 to 12. That's when you're making your calls, you're reaching out, helping people. That's something you do every day. And that day, you may not get anything.
No.
But the next day you come back and you realize every single day you're doing that is leading you to bigger and better.
Let's put it this way, it's compounding. It's hopefully compounding to something bigger down the line.
Just like compound interest,
exactly.
Right? I think that what blew my mind was the rule of 72.
Yes.
You know, talking about it's a mental math shortcut. It tells you how long it takes your money to double. Works for you when you're saving your money, works against you when you're borrowing your money. And people, you're right. It's like, I want this now. But that compound interest, it takes time.
It does.
Just like you're compounding, making those phone calls, reaching out to people, sending the emails, making the phone calls, that's going to compound into success when you are able to help a family find their dream home.
Yeah.
Sell their home for what it's worth, because people get very emotional. Like, my house is worth $5 million. Well, not really. But being able to help them see that, and I think that's the magic of what we're doing. And, you know, Travis, that's why I'm so pleased that we've had an opportunity to get to know each other, because both of us realize that we've got to just keep going, because there's people out there that need us, whether they realize it or not. And so sometimes you've got to make people, you know, uncomfortable for their own good.
Yeah.
Because I don't care how many times a person hangs up their phone or I sit down with them and they choose not to go with that plan, I've planted that seed.
Yeah.
You know, that just dripping on that person. And doing everything you can to make sure that you and myself are on top of their mind.
Yeah.
So when they are ready to sell that home, when they are ready to buy, when they are ready to make a positive change for their futures, they're going to call you up and go,
think of us.
Hey, Sir Travis, are you still doing that real estate thing? Yeah. And they call me, so Caroline, are you still doing that money thing? Yes, I am. And I'm here to help.
Yeah.
And that's where that patience comes in.
Absolutely.
That patience comes in.
I mean, I think it's already a good connection. We just both happen to be from South Africa, and we both got funny accents, maybe compared to everybody else. But
like, where are you from?
Yeah.
And I go, my mother. I'm from my mother.
Yeah.
But it's just such a pleasure to meet someone with such an incredible work ethic, and that you've really dedicated your life to, you know, really making a positive change for a lot of people. And I got to tell you, I'm really pleased that we had the opportunity to spend some time together. And I know that for myself, anytime I meet anybody that needs a home or needs to sell a home, you'll be the first person I think about, because I know that I'm placing them in the best hands possible. And I know that I can trust you, you're credible, and that you're going to do your very, very best to help them. So
Thank you, Caroline. I appreciate it. I can say the same for you, and at least I've got another resource in my back pocket for anything financially. We got a great relationship at the end of the day, and making sure that I've already got somebody that I can trust, and I know my clients are going to be taken care of when I send them in your direction to
Absolutely.
help with their needs. So I think we're on the same page.
Yes, 100%. And so thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that so much. Great to see you, Travis.
You as well, Caroline.
All right. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you very much.
All right.